Hi, I'm Matt, here in Michigan.
And I'm Randall, also here in Michigan. Today, Matt and I are taking a look at a new Netflix series based on an old anime series, Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop stars John Cho, Mustafar Shakir, Daniela Pineda, Elena Satine, and Alex Hassel. It was created by Christopher L. Yost, who's best known for his writing contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok, but also well known for his work on Star Wars for series like The Mandalorian and Rebels. But before we get too far into this TV series review, if you like it, make sure you give it a like. Those likes really help us out. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon if you always want to know when we're uploading new videos.
In Cowboy Bebop, it's about a ragtag group of bounty hunters hunting down dangerous criminals across the galaxy. Even though they work pretty good together, they also have goals of their own and aren't always upfront with each other. There are 10 episodes in the series, and it was originally scheduled to release in 2020, but was delayed due to injuries and the pandemic. So far, critical response has been mixed or mostly negative, and audiences has also had average or mixed reviews. Alright, Randall, so my first impressions on this is, it's alright, I guess. Nothing really too great, or nothing actually really too memorable about it, but I do like the art style of this one and like the overall look of it, and I think there are enough like minor changes and stuff, so this isn't just like a complete rehash of the anime.
Minor changes are one thing. It's the major changes that I hate. And I mean hate. Okay? My problem with it is, like, from a first impression perspective, you try and look at it as this is a different series and it's not trying to be the anime, but it's like when we did Mulan. It's its own thing, but you can't help but compare it to its source material.
Yep.
So my first impressions of this are, there is no reason to watch this at all because the anime is absolutely so far superior to it. Why would you waste time with this when you could watch its source material instead?
Which I would agree with. That's actually part of my closings or whatever. But, yes, I would say that. And to kind of enhance on that a little bit too, not only the changes that are kind of bad, I think some of the things that are actually true to the anime actually make this partially worse too.
Because they don't work with the way that they did it this time.
Yep.
Yes. It's like, oh yeah, that works in the anime, but that's because it's doing something different in the first place.
Yep.
So the big thing is the changes they made. This story is really in service of Vicious and Julia a lot more. Yes, we do spend a good amount of time with the Bebop crew, with Faye and Jet and of course, Spike, but they've made changes to the story just for the sake of not being the same as the animated series or the anime, and those changes to the story where they concentrate heavily on what happened in the past, the dwelling on it doesn't help, in my opinion.
So for me, the story, how we're kind of introduced, I guess, to like our main characters and how the story is starting off is kind of like, hey, these are bounty hunters and they're going for like big bounties and stuff just to scrape by and stuff. And that part of the story, I kind of liked for the most part. But we have, like you're saying, all these other things going on kind of thing. And with that, I don't think the story is quite as strong and stuff as that or whatever. So yeah, I agree. I will say one thing, like the first episode, I absolutely hated. And I'll get to that a little bit more when we get into our next segment.
So, for me, the biggest thing is, this plot by itself isn't terrible. It's just that they concentrate so heavily on it. And the original series, the anime is, there is this Julia Vicious Spike storyline. That's kind of like the thing, but that only shows up in all of 8 episodes out of like the original 20-some episodes. It's not huge. This story is like everything is connected to the story. Even, like you had said in the intro of your first impressions, things that were part of the animated series, the anime that work there don't work here when they put them in, because they end up being connected to the story. And it's like, well, that didn't need to be connected to the main story in the anime. And they didn't really even need to be connected to the main story in this. They made a decision to do that. Decision I wholeheartedly disagree with.
All right, so next we're kind of looking at the characters, and I think we were kind of going into a little bit with story and stuff too. And what I was hitting on to me, I think for me the strongest part of this series is probably our three mains when they are together. Specifically, Spike. Jet. I actually like Jet. He's my favorite. I think it's probably the best representation, I think, of the characters, at least for, in my opinion, of I like for me. But all that stuff when they're together, like doing like their bounties and like the whole idea of like, hey, we're getting stuff to like scrap by and stuff, like that stuff I liked. You know, the betrayals are okay from Spike. They're okay from Faye or whatever. I think it's when they're working together they play off well against her. Now, when we do other stuff, when they're kind of like on their own, minus, like I said, Jet's kind of like noir detective stuff, I thought was kind of interesting. But some of his other stuff, I didn't enjoy as much. Even though it gives you more heart, I wasn't as big on like the family stuff or like you were mentioning, like the Julia Vicious stuff. Because I honestly don't like the supporting cast as much as I like our three main casts working together. I think the supporting cast is good when it's like one-offs, but when we have recurring secondary characters, I don't think they were as strong.
Characters is what let this series down so bad. I mean, I can harp on the plot. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay, but it's it's in service of what the story that's being told.
Mm-hmm.
But these characters, I agree with you, Jet.
Mm-hmm.
Jet is the most true to the anime. He sounds like Jet. He has the look. He has the feel. He gets irritated with Spike when Spike's not telling him everything. That's very, accurate.
Yep.
I didn't particularly like Faye's portrayal that much, but I think that was more the way the character was written. It wasn't the actress or anything like that. It's just the way it was written. But listen, they destroyed. I'm not using that term lightly. They destroyed Vicious's character. This is an absolute travesty of what they did to Vicious's character. He comes across as nothing more than a petulant little child who just doesn't get what he wants and throws a temper tantrum or whatever. Nothing like he is in the anime. Who's just named Vicious. Like in this one, you might follow him because you're afraid of him.
Mm-hmm.
In the animated series, you would follow him because you believe in what he believes in, the way that he wants the syndicate to be. So he's more of like a very strong person that you want to follow, charismatic. In this, no one follows him because he's charismatic.
Yeah.
And then there's Julia. Julia is all sorts of messed up in this. I mean, they completely changed her character. Like, there's the basic storyline that's from the anime with the Spike and Julia and Vicious is kind of there, like the basic love triangle stuff. But the way her character is in this is all wrong. She's only in flashbacks in the series, except for like the last 2 episodes. That's it.
So that's one thing too. We have our whole 9th episode completely explaining the Vicious Spike Julia stuff.
The Netflix formula is what you're talking about.
Exactly. I honestly would have preferred not having it. I think it worked well of, just getting hints from Spike or whatever, and then just trusting Spike to like loving Julia kind of thing. I don't think we really needed or trusting Spike that, him and Vicious had like kind of like a brother relationship stuff that they say you're and not have that whole 9th episode to explain it.
They episode 2 Spike and Vicious, man. You got Obi-Wan, you got Anakin in the elevator talking about all the times they saved each other, and then you get this one flashback episode with Spike and Vicious that's supposed to explain why they were so close together and they, comrades in arms and everything, and I'm just like, oh my god, they did mess this up. They done messed it up.
Now I'll go to another thing I teased about. The first episode I hated, and I'll tell you the reason why I didn't like it. I think our introduction to our three characters, they were trying to be like, hey, it is kind of like the anime, and to me, it didn't make the characters feel real at all. It was like actors playing a shell of anime characters because, the anime stuff happened in the anime, so it has to happen in this episode. So I didn't like that. I didn't actually warm up to like the dynamic between our three characters until like the second and third episode. The first episode, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna like this. Second, third one though, I kind of took that to the side a little bit more. And I'm like, all right, you know what? It's kind of fun seeing these three characters together, and like I was talking about, like our one-off characters, like the bomber or whatever with the
The teddy bear?
the teddy bear head stuff. I thought that was kind of fun. Even though it's out there, it's fun. Even the floating guy that you can't kill or whatever that takes them to the amusement park. I think for like a one-off, that's fun. But yeah, the Julia Vicious stuff, even, I hate to say, even the person at the saloon or whatever you want to say, those two.
She's
like
a new character, yeah.
I just really didn't care for that stuff.
Yeah, she's added. She's not an existing character in canon, so... but I gotta talk about Spike still. So,
Spike Spiegel.
My problem with, they messed up Spike's backstory a little bit, I think. But in general, his story is probably the most true to the anime. Even if Jet's portrayal is the most true to the anime, Spike's story is the most true to the anime. But I didn't like the way that they treated, like the way Spike went about in this series. I don't like the way he was treated. He's so cool and smooth and, devil may care in the anime. And that's not how he is in this. He broods in this. It's not like he doesn't get emotional in the anime, but like it's all things that you can really feel from that character in the moment. Our character in this series is broody and he feels very conflicted about things. That's not Spike. Spike's not a conflicted character. He knows what he did. He knows what he wants. Stuff like that, and he knows when he has to take action. But the other thing that really bothered me was just with the portrayal of him.
Mm-hmm.
I love watching the anime and seeing Spike be Spike, seeing Spike be just superior to every other person that he fights. Basically, when he does meet an adversary that is truly dangerous to him, that adversary is truly dangerous to him because Spike is such a good fighter. In this, he's not smooth when he fights. It looks like an American brawl scene instead of an anime like inspired thing. Like he has that fight with Hakeem on the rooftop, which is probably one of the better fights of the series, because Hakeem is one of those people that could go toe to toe with Spike in the actual anime, but he's just not. He doesn't have any smooth moves. He just uses guns all the time and everything. I'm like, nope. His character and the way he's portrayed in this just doesn't work very well. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's a different character, I think, for sure, I think, from the anime. The only time when I was watching this that actually, like, oh yeah, that Spike, was actually just for, like, images, like, when we have, like, wide shots, and it's, like, artistically, I'm like, alright, whoever did, like, the art and cinematography, it's, like, at least they got, like, his, I would guess you'd say, like, stances and different stuff, like, profile shots and different stuff like that. I think it looked well, but really, like you said, like, I'm not saying that John Cho did, like, a bad job or anything with the character. I think it's part of the, how they wanted the story told and stuff. But I think the only time I actually felt like I was watching the anime Spike was in those long shots.
Yeah, the art was very good, and John Cho did what he did, and he didn't write the script, so. But, yeah, the shots are very well set up. One thing that I do miss from the anime series a lot, that's it's kind of story, but kind of character, the Bebop, the Swordfish, they're kind of like their own characters, like in Star Trek, that, the hero ships are like their own characters. You don't really get to know the Bebop very well, or care about it, or care about the Swordfish and stuff like that. There's not as much planet hopping and stuff in here, and so, like, they didn't get their moment to shine, really, which was disappointing. Really disappointing.
Well, kind of like a comparison to, like, something that we reviewed, like Jungle Cruise, like kind of how, the same thing with, like, the boat. you kind of try to have that feel with like the Bebop between like Jet, and we don't really get that as much with this one, even though there are some of those elements of building, where it's kind of like, hey, you got to get spare parts and different stuff, and all she worked like that. That's this typical formula on how we make a connection with the ship. But yeah, I agree, I don't feel as much in this as like we would in like Jungle Cruise.
I wanted to, because they did a good job with the Bebop designing it. It looks really cool and everything, and the special effects are top notch. The feelings weren't there. So the original genre feel for Cowboy Bebop is kind of spaghetti western feel, and they were kind of going for that, but I don't think they quite nailed it. I mean, the art in this is good. It has its own style. I'm okay with that. I think that the art design, like the artistic license they took, works. But if they were kind of going for that spaghetti western look, they gave up some of it in the pursuit of the way that they wanted the art to look.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that too. Like the first episode, even though I didn't really like it, at least like art wise and stuff, I thought the sets and stuff in that one was true to like how the other episodes where they're imitating from the anime. I think it looked right. Whoever put the set and stuff together, I think it looked right and stayed true to that. But yeah, I do think we did lose some of the Western feel. Like some parts you definitely feel like, one thing you're talking about how Spike's a little bit different, like in the style that he fights and stuff. I actually think that feels more Western. And another thing I looked at, I would definitely say Western's probably the biggest one, and it has an okay Western feel. But I see they also took a lot of inspiration from like the different like cop detective drama stuff. And I think you definitely feel that a bit more, especially some of the episodes we have, like the flashback episode with Jet. That feels more like noir than it does, like Western.
Yeah. That was one episode that was almost picked directly out from the series. That they did very well. Where I was like, okay, this is a good one. It feels familiar, but it's just different enough. Like the circumstances behind Jet and his backstory and everything that happens. That one was a really good episode. The other thing about genre is obviously there's a lot of action. But I kind of already mentioned it. Like, I'm not a fan of the way they did this action. I don't like the way that Spike isn't super smooth and super cool with his martial arts. He ends up being John Wick in one scene where I'm just like, oh great, now he's John Wick. Literally what I said when I was watching it.
Yep.
I'm like, that's so not him. But there is a lot of action, and the action's good when it's on screen. It's just not very Cowboy Bebop to me.
Right.
When it's on screen.
Now, there is some humor that I don't think this even approaches really comedy. I don't really think so. But one of the other scenes I would like to talk about kind of too, it is kind of goes with the action, is when we have Jet is watching like his daughter's like recital or whatever, and you have Spike in the background. The Jet's oblivious to what's going on. He's just like, hey, whatever you got to do, make sure that I can watch this recital kind of thing. And Spike is just like fighting off, almost like Indiana Jones style, kind of, or not quite, a little bit more kung fu or whatever. But it's kind of funny how you see, like Jet all like happy and everything, and then you see Spike in the background taking out a whole bunch of people. I thought that was a pretty cool scene.
It is a cool scene. I just wish that they had shown more of the Spike spot, because so much of that is just it's played for laughs.
Yep.
Spike's getting this while Jet's not paying attention.
Yep.
But it happens.
And there's some other like real well-known jokes I think in the anime, especially with like the beef and noodles, where it doesn't quite live up to the.
They didn't even do it. But I was like, why did you not do bell peppers and beef?
But here's the thing, like they do have like just the noodles and peppers, but what's I find strange, I was looking through some of the promotional stuff for Cowboy Bebop, and Mustafa actually mentions beef and the peppers and stuff.
This is where we make peppers and beef. Beef doesn't happen that often.
Why would he be talking about that in promotional stuff and they not fully do the joke? It's kind of interesting.
They didn't do the joke. I was like, where's the payoff for this?
There's no beef in here. So you wouldn't really call it bell peppers and beef, now would you?
Yes, I would.
Well, it's not!
Alright, Randall. For my didn't see this coming. When the trailers came out and everything, there was one thing that I said that I don't see in the trailers that I really want to see. I'm like, you know what? If this isn't in it, I'm not interested. What I didn't see coming is when it was actually in it, and I completely regretted asking for it.
Ed.
I'm not gonna say what. All right, it's Ed. I absolutely wanted Ed, but when we were talking about like in the beginning on some of the things staying true to the anime that don't work for the live action, for me it's Ed because I think they tried to do anime Ed, and I don't think it goes with this show really at all. Honestly, when I saw Ed, I thought we were watching like a kid's show from, I'm trying to think what it'd be like, you know,
Kid show on Nickelodeon in the 90s.
something like that, or on public broadcast station, your local PBS station. Did not to me fit like Cowboy Bebop.
Kind of look like Beekman's World. I don't know if that was a local thing around here, Beekman's World. Maybe no one knows what it is, but that's the vibe I got off of Ed. Things I didn't see coming. I knew that they were out and about and said, we're not making a carbon copy of the animated series. And I'm like, that's good. I don't want a carbon copy of the anime. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with some of the subtle changes they made. I love that they gave Jet a family. Well, a daughter, I should say. Like, I like all that, and that became a thing for him. What I did not see coming, like, really, truly, was that they were just going to YOLO the ending of stories. I'm like, I'd already mentioned it. They did a huge disservice to Vicious's character, huge disservice to Julia's character. That's one thing. Like, hey, we've changed characters. Mm-hmm. But the way that they decided to end this season, and I would say season, although with the reviews, I'm not sure you're going to get another one. The way that this ends is very disappointing. I didn't see it coming because I could not possibly conceive that even though they weren't making a carbon copy, that they would go as far as they did with some of the changes.
Well, that's the thing too, because that Julia Vicious stuff is so a big part of this whole series that they made throughout. Not just like, a couple episodes. It's a big part through like every episode. So that's the thing too. If you that is going to be like your main, I guess, storyline focus or whatever, if that doesn't work, then it really does hurt the show.
Then the ending doesn't work either. Yep. Yeah, very well. Exactly. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. In conclusion, I actually don't recommend watching this, honestly. I mean, especially if you're a big fan of the Cowboy Bebop anime, which I really, really like it. This is so frustrating. Really frustrating. I can fix it, though, with one change of the title. This is how I propose fixing it. Instead of calling it Cowboy Bebop, just call it Cowboy Bebop What If. That's it.
You gonna go the Marvel route?
Yep, go the Marvel route. Whatever it is. Make it clear to the fans that this is like an alternate version. Mm-hmm. Like a real, true alternate version. Give it something else. Coming in and dressing all of our characters like you dress the characters and like that's Spike, that's Jet, they look cool, then changing everything. Just call it something to give the fans like more information, I guess.
I guess for me, this is kind of like a casual watch. I did enjoy some of the episode stuff. They were fun, at least for me or whatever, watching a little bit of the interaction, especially if we get more of the interaction between like our three main characters, looking for bounties and stuff, just scraping by. That's what I'm actually interested with, like this show. But honestly, if you haven't seen the anime, I would 100% say watch the anime. I guess this may be for people that are just like, no, I don't like anime. I'm not going to watch an anime. I don't know that you're really going to like this, but, maybe this is your way to, like, dip your toe in. And then if you do like some of the things, maybe they'll interest you in the anime. Maybe. That's the only thing that I can really think of.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. I was already in fear for the Avatar: The Last Airbender live-action Netflix thing. And now I'm not even sure I even want to bother.
Yep. Oh, okay. I hear you on that one.
Now I'm just like, because I know that's been contentious, like with Netflix, the creator of Avatar: The Last Airbender left. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's not a good sign. And then watching Cowboy Bebop and what they did to Cowboy Bebop, I'm like, Oh, I can't wait for Qatar to turn on Aang.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, we'll see. Well, Randall and I want to know what you guys think of Cowboy Bebop. If you watched it, let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to go to our YouTube channel and check out some of our other reviews. We have other TV show reviews, new movie reviews, flashback movie reviews, and we have deeper dive discussions.
We also have a Facebook page, so make sure to go check us out over there if you haven't already. We post the day before on Facebook what's coming out next on YouTube, and also some tidbits from other fandoms. But if you don't want to bother with Facebook, no problem. Put us on your calendars. We release new videos every Monday and Thursday. For now, Randall here in Michigan. See everyone next time.
I'm Matt, also here in Michigan. Have a good day. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.